Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Simus here with a Overwatch discussion video. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about Ranked, and since the launch of Ranked, there's been a lot of discussion, a lot of concern, a lot of opinions, and I'm here to sort of just give mine. Now, disclaimer, I don't have an incredibly super in-depth knowledge of the system Blizzard is using, since they have said there's a lot under the hood. But I have a decent understanding of how ELO matchmaking ranking systems work, what their purpose is. I've played a lot of competitive games. And yeah, so again, these are just my thoughts, but I figure, you know, I'm going to try and give you guys as much information as I can in my thoughts on the situation, but absolutely try and do your own research to draw your own conclusions. Anyway, also, this particular Junkrat game is like, it's not a good game. It has a lot of weirdness though, which is why I used it, but you guys will see. So with the launch of Ranked Competitive, there is a lot of community outcry. I'm currently looking at a Reddit thread with over 4,000 upvotes titled "Competitive is just a mess right now" on the Overwatch subreddit. And yeah, there are a lot of issues with competitive. The first topic that's mentioned here, and I'll just use this guy's order because they're all good topics, is the fact that disconnects aren't handled very well. You get a loss even if your team wins after your teammate DCs, and one disconnect basically ruins the experience for all the players involved, which I don't really see any reason why Blizzard couldn't implement some proper form of I guess, like, if someone returns, that they just make it a normal game if someone returns quickly. Otherwise, if someone doesn't return and your team loses, I think you should get a severely discounted penalty, if any at all. Since certainly that's entirely unfair and you shouldn't really be punished if you lose a 5v6, especially if it's not in your control. But as the current system is, it just doesn't make sense. You don't even get rewarded for the win if one of your own players DCs. So you get punished by winning in a disadvantageous position. And that's just really weird. And I think that's something that Blizzard knows and will likely have better solutions for. But my hope for all of these solutions, or just any of the fixes they make, is that they do it as soon as possible. And don't just wait for the next season of Overwatch Ranked to come out, because I think by then a lot of people will have been dissatisfied for so long that it will really hurt the growth of the game. Anyway, the next issue is that support players are totally undervalued. And if you have ever looked at Master Overwatch stats for anyone, really, the value that a support gets, their KDA, for example, is going to be much lower. Mercy is the hero with the lowest KDA, if I'm not mistaken. And Lucio is right down there with her. It's very hard to be rewarded as a support when the metric systems aren't really in your favor. And back in beta, Zenyatta was a hero who used to get elims for literally anything he was involved with. So I think both Orb of Harmony and Discord kills gave him an elim. And certainly that's a little bit broken. And I understand Blizzard wanting to limit the reach supports have. But when you undervalue the supports so much so that they get less points in ranked because of playing support, that's pretty messed up, man. I feel bad for supports who don't like playing support already, but do so simply because they want to help build a team. But then they're also kind of not rewarded because they get smaller amount of points. I think it was Kai or Grego who played with Surefour for the same amount of placement matches, and Surefour was like 8 or 9 ranks higher when they both finished their matches. And certainly the impact a hero and a player can have on a game is important, and I honestly think it's good that under the hood Blizzard have mentioned that they want to reconcile how points are calculated and how much rank is earned. But it seems as if right now supports get the way worse end of the bargain, and that certainly needs to be adjusted. Currently, the solution to the old sudden death that Blizzard had in the beta competitive is a coin flip situation. And this is one of those situations where I've actually discussed this a little bit before. It's not good. but I understand what they were thinking. That being said, though, a coin flip situation to try and end the map is, even if it's actually perfectly balanced, it takes away all sense of player control. Literally none of the 12 players involved, and neither team has control in that situation. And that's totally unfair, in my opinion. I think a great solution that's been proposed is that the team with the better time gets to choose which side they want. Like, maybe they vote, and if they go 3-3, then I don't know what you do in that situation. But at the very least, you don't want a map to end... Okay, that was a really weird Junkrat ultimate. Anyway, sorry. You don't want a map to end like in a sudden death mode where there was no control and basically it's a coin flip, and that's literally what it is right now. You know, as long as there's some sense of control, the format that sudden death is in, where it's you have to cap just the 1 point and you get a small amount of time, that's okay. That's not great, but that's okay as long as there's some control. As of right now, it's literally just random and no one feels rewarded as a result. The next thing I want to discuss is the underdog system, which is a nice sounding thing, but MMR doesn't really work that way. I mean, yes, it does. Okay, technically, MMR, the way like the ELO rating works is if you're a lower ranking player and you go against a higher ranking player, you get more points. That is innate in nearly every matchmaking system I've ever heard of. Couple that, though, with Blizzard already reinforcing that, and you get a situation where people lose a huge amount of points. Like, totally unreasonable amount of points for losing against someone who's barely lower than their rank. And especially for, I'm not sure whether or not the underdog system works by team or by player. So if you play on a team, you could be a low ranking player, but your team average could still be higher than the enemy teams. And if you lose a crap ton of points as a result, but you're still a low ranking player, like, that feels horrible. The next thing that's actually discussed in this Reddit post, which is what I'm using as my guidelines, is the fact that there's no solo or group queue, and instead your dynamic queue. And I think, honestly, that's a complaint that I recognize and I understand why, but at this point, I think Blizzard is very committed to dynamic queue, and I don't think it's a bad thing. Currently, at least in my experience, as a caveat, I haven't played as many ranked games as I would have liked. Not many people were using voice chat, and that's really, really unfortunate. I think you really should use voice chat in ranked because you want to improve your chances of success as much as you can. And that sort of solves the issue of having like an actual 6v6 queue or a strictly solo queue, etc. Dynamic queue isn't the best solution for a purely skill-based matchmaking ranking system, but it is something that developers are huge fans of currently. And I doubt we'll see a change, but there are still things that you can do to address that. And then the other thing I really wanted to talk about was basically how matchmaking works. Is that especially when a game just starts, everyone is going to have a low rating. I think the cap was 70 or something. If you had 10 wins, most top pros had 70 points. And as the rating system unfolds, it's not yet from 1 to 100 or 0 to 99. It's still trying to place everyone properly. The amount of points you gain and lose will be of varying amounts and generally very high. For any game, when you first play that game, you're gonna get a varying amount of point loss or gain, because the whole point of the system is that it's trying to put you in a space where you're going 50-50. And how is it going to know if you win one game whether or not you beat someone really good or whether or not you beat someone average? And because it doesn't know, it just gives you a lot of points. And okay, so let's say you gain 100 rank, whatever. Now you're, instead of 1,000 average rank, you're at 1,100. Okay, you play against another 1,100 ranked player, but then you get crushed. So okay, you beat 1,000 ranked player, you lost to 100. Or excuse me, 1,100. So let's bring you down to 1,050. So now you play the 1,050. Okay, you still lost. So we'll go down to 1,025. And it's not that cut and dry. It's not that simple. But that's what matchmaking systems do. That is how, as far as I know, the ELO system works. And because there is no baseline, you're going to have a lot of variation in general, especially because the way Blizzard has set it up is that it's a percentage base, and the percentage base without a baseline is really hard to judge. And then factor in all of the other issues, all of the other concerns, and you've got a really, really awkward system where there's going to be a lot of point loss and point gain. But that's something that's annoying, and I think a lot of players weren't thinking of before they started playing ranked, but that was like inevitable. Even if Blizzard had no adjustments other than simply playing and obtaining rank, the fluctuation, the very high fluctuation, and generally the fluctuation that tends to group you lower than higher, is a fair concern, because your rank is supposed to be like a bell curve, right? It's not supposed to be, at least in terms of player rank, it's not going to be a very easy 1 to 100% differential initially. It wants to be a bell curve, and eventually with this particular 1 to 100 like system they have, it's going to eventually even out. But that takes time. And again, with all the extra things Blizzard has thrown in there, that's like, I can only imagine how confusing that is. And certainly I don't think they'll ever tell us, but I am really curious about what some of the, what under the hood, like what some of the other things they're using to factor in their calculations. Anyway, there are some other concerns as well. For example, no real rewards at the moment. You don't have like a tier system, which is suggested here, and I honestly don't know whether or not that's a big concern. I'm just reading this Reddit post, which I'll also link in the description if any of you are curious. If you check the Overwatch subreddit, I'm sure you ran into it, but it has a lot of views and a lot of upvotes, and it was really, really big. But then again, I just want to make sure that y'all are on the same page with me what I'm discussing. But yeah, those are just some of the grievances and my thoughts on ranked. I think for the most part, a lot of these problems are hard to anticipate if you've never done something like this before. And to be fair, this is the first game that Blizzard have made with this kind of a ladder, as far as I know. Like, StarCraft has a ladder, but it's a different ladder. It's a ladder by tiers, whereas this is a more straight MMR-based system, but instead of just making it straight MMR, they wanted to equalize it, which is fine, and then they also wanted to put a bunch of adjustments to make people feel better. And the making people feel better is actually cool. I think it's awesome that a player who loses a game but has a fantastic score in that game gets more points. It's just that right now, those sorts of discrepancies that Blizzard decides to fine-tune themselves, we don't really know how they work, and currently they're certainly not as balanced as they could be. That being said, though, I'm just kind of happy that we have competitive, honestly. I think that iterating on it season by season is very likely to happen, and I certainly hope that a lot of these concerns are addressed as early as possible, but I could see it happening every 2 to 3 months, and I don't know, that sounds like something that sounds very dev to me, which I'm not. I guess it sounds like with a negative connotation, but I don't think they would make any drastic adjustments in this first initial period of the cycle, and I don't necessarily fault them for that, even though I don't like it, if that makes sense. Anyway, though, that is going to wrap it up for this video. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments if you'd like. Otherwise, that's cool. I'll just keep making these discussion videos anyway. And yeah, tomorrow I'll be starting my Lucio guide, and then I don't know what I'm going to do for this weekend. But Lucio guide coming tomorrow, basic guide, advanced guide, overanalyze, gameplay analysis. Y'all know the drill. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see y'all later.